Chapter 5. Don't deal in hope. Limping and still clasping the knife for good measure, I followed Tattoos through the door at the end of the hallway. The room beyond was larger than I'd expected, though just as decrepit. Crates and broken furniture were scattered between clusters of glowing mushrooms, and a single lantern hung from the ceiling, its faint, flickering light casting long, jagged shadows against the cracked walls. Somewhere in the half-light, I caught glimpses of a slick, long-limbed animal slowly slithering away. And there, standing in the center of it all, surrounded by murmuring allies, was Glotha. She was younger than I'd imagined, late 20s maybe, but the way she held herself made her seem older. Her ash-gray skin was streaked with grime, and scars crisscrossed her sharp features like a map of old battles. Her dark eyes fixed on me the moment I entered, unflinching and fierce. She didn't speak right away, just watched as I limped into the room, her expression caught between disbelief and distrust.
"What in Bedroff's bowels is this?"
Glotha demanded, her eyes snapping to Tattoos. The fungal light cast jagged shadows across her face.
"Who are you bringing to me? And why beyond the veil is he armed?"
"This fucker killed Varen and demanded to see you,"
Tattoos stammered, his voice cracking.
"I had to—"
"What?"
Glotha's voice cut through the room like a blade. She grabbed a knife from her belt. Her gaze snapped to me, her posture coiled like a spring.
"And who in Tsar Raven's name are you to come here, murder my Hansira, and demand to see me? Talk!"
"I've come looking for work," I lied.
"And instead of asking for work, you kill my strongest Hansir. How come?"
"Oh, Old Fist's back there might have been strong," I said with a shrug. "But he was also stupid. He got offended by my charm and decided he wanted to split me open. But he wasn't quick enough, hence his untimely demise." I paused, letting the weight of my words hang in the air. "However, you shouldn't worry too much. What I stole from you by splitting that idiot's skull, I'll make up for manyfold by offering my talents to you." Her lips curled into a humorless smirk.
"And what talents would those be?"
I squared my shoulders slightly, ignoring the way the box shifted on my back. "Name's EverAfterPortraits," I said. "Renowned mercenary and former captain of the guard at Fort Gulch. After a recent disagreement with the Baron there, I find myself looking for employment. I hear you have work to offer. I'll kill for you. Point me to anyone causing you trouble, and I'll deal with them as easily as I dealt with your slow and stupid henchmen." She squinted, her expression cold and calculating. "So," I said, tilting my head slightly, "what do you say, Messiah?"
"You're lying,"
she said, her voice flat and sharp. "I am?"
"Yes,"
she said, stepping closer, the knife still in her hand, its jagged blade glinting faintly in the dim light. "Your name isn't EverAfterPortraits. You're not a mercenary, and you've never been captain of any guard, let alone at Fort Gulch." Her eyes narrowed.
"You're Dren Arasith, chief assassin to Lady Azura of the Forbidden Temple, and you're not here to ask for work. You're here to kill me."
I'll admit, this caught me off guard. I wasn't used to being made like this. Most who'd heard of me were long dead. Meeting a target who knew who I was ahead of time? It was unnerving, to say the least. Before I could respond, she kept going, her voice steady and cutting.
"They call you the walking corpse of Valeswood, pale and crippled, with skin like a ghost and a mouth like a fish, was torn free from too many hooks, gashed lips, a limping stride. You've been killing for Azura for decades, long before the war, and everywhere you go, you leave a trail of corpses."
Her words hung in the air, heavy and deliberate, and the rot-stained walls around us seemed to close in a little tighter. I laughed, a short, dry bark that echoed off the crumbling walls. "Ha! Not bad," I said, letting the smirk linger. "You're sharper than I expected." She tilted her head, studying me like I was some venomous creature she hadn't quite decided whether to stomp out or cage. "So, Lady Azura of the Forbidden Temple wants me dead." "No sense denying it now, is there?" I said, letting my arms hang loosely at my sides. "Yes, you win. The wielder of the Fang of Zarhaven sends her regards." Glotha's expression didn't shift, but I caught the faintest flicker of tension in her jaw. "So, what was the plan? Get a job from me, pretend to be loyal, and then stab me in the back once I trusted you?" "Something to that effect," I admitted. "Well, that won't happen. If you want to kill me, you'll have to do it right here and now. Think you can manage that?" "I'm thinking that knife of yours looks awfully sharp," I said. "You're also surrounded by allies, and despite my killing your idiot Hansir back there, I'm not exactly in peak condition. So no, I'll admit, I'm not particularly confident." That earned me a faint smile. "Good. You wouldn't survive trying." "I figured as much. You seem like the type who knows how to stay alive." I gestured vaguely to the room around us. "Nice setup, by the way. Cozy." Her smile vanished. "I have a counteroffer for you." "Oh, this should be good." "Join me," she said, her tone firm but oddly calm. "Not as a ruse to betray me later. Actually join me. Your skills are renowned in the dark circles I walk. Having you on my side would prove very beneficial to me." "Join you in what, exactly?" "You don't know?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Azura sends you to kill me and hasn't even bothered to tell you why?" "The High Priestess of Valeswood tends to spare me the details," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Cleaner that way. I'm sure you understand. All she told me was that you're a criminal, and that you're dangerous, a threat to the Ash Elves of Hazareth. But by all means, if there's more to it, enlighten me. What exactly is your business?" "You think that's all I am?" Her voice hardened. "Another criminal carving out a corner of the gallows? No. What I do isn't business. It's a revolution." I couldn't stop the laugh that escaped me. It was harsh and humorless, echoing off the crumbling walls. "Revolution?" I looked around at her angry companions surrounding her. "So, you're rebels," I said, turning back to Glotha. "And what exactly are you rebelling against?" "The Empire of the Morning Star." That made me laugh harder. "What? You're going to take this rabble to Mordengrad and kill Emperor Romir on his throne?" "Fuck Romir. I don't give a croach's shit what goes on in the courts of Orotria. What I care about is sending the Farajai colonizers out of Loklalesh, their tails between their legs. Them and every corrupt ash elf who's on their side." "How quaint," I said. "Laugh all you want, Arisith," Glotha said, her voice steady but laced with venom. "My rebellion might not look like much to you yet, but one day every imperial mansion in Ashland will burn before me. Finally, our people will be free, and you are going to help me." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're not an idiot," she said, stepping closer, her knife catching the dim light of the fungus in the walls. The shadows of the room seemed to shift with her, long and jagged, like broken teeth. "You are also suffering under the regime, and more importantly," her eyes darkened, "I won't let you leave this room alive unless you swear to help me." I folded my arms, ignoring the ache in my shoulders, as the box on my back shifted again. "So you're threatening me," I said flatly. "Call it what you will," she replied, her tone calm, but the fire in her eyes betrayed her intensity. "You've been sent here to kill me because Azura sits on the Veiled Council, and the Veiled Council knows what I stand for. They know what I'm fighting for. They can't allow it because of their clandestine ties to the Imperials. But you?" She tilted her head slightly, studying me. "You're not one of them. You might work for those corrupt swine, but you're not benefiting from their corruption. You've seen what this land has become, what the Empire has done to our people. You've walked through the slums. You've seen the misery." I opened my mouth to respond, but stopped. The image of the self-flogging ash elf from earlier flashed through my mind, his back torn and bleeding, his murmured chants rising into the soot-choked air. Azura's chants. Throughout my travels, I'd seen countless of the sort. Ash elves fanatically venerating their own suffering. I closed my mouth again, frowning. Glotha caught the hesitation immediately. "See?" she said softly, her voice almost mocking. "You know. You've seen it. You just don't care." "You want me to be a hero," I said, my tone flat. "Lok Lalesh needs heroes, now more than ever. All I ask of you is some guts." "And a fair dose of hope," I replied. "I don't deal in hope." "Then you're a coward," Glotha said, "just like the rest of them." "Maybe," I admitted with a shrug. "But I'm a coward who's still breathing. And knowing your type, I'm pretty sure I'll still be breathing long after you've drawn your last." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. "You know what the Veiled Council wants us to believe," she began, her voice rising slightly. "That everything is fine, that Azura liberated us, that we're free to worship the Abyssal Ones again, as our ancestors did. Ever since the Triumvirate, Azura and her Veiled Council have been telling us that this misery is sacred, that suffering is a virtue, that it's what the Abyssal Ones want, and we believe this crouch shit because we're too broken to think otherwise." "Azura's a fraud," I scoffed. "Tell me something I don't know." "You acknowledge that, and still you work for her. Why?" "It's hard to drink oneself to death without a steady income. I don't like things to be hard." She stepped closer again, her voice sharp enough to cut through the heavy, stale air. "It's more than that. Azura isn't just a fraud. She's a tyrant, a puppet of the Empire, claiming it's the other way around. The Veiled Council, they're not our liberators. They never were. They've sold us out to the Imperials, just like the Triumvirate did before them." "That's a bold claim," I said, my arms still folded. "Especially from someone hiding in a collapsing tenement in a ruined city." "It's the truth," she said, her voice unwavering. "And you know it. Before the Empire came, the Triumvirate banned the worship of the Abyssal Ones. They ruled us with an iron fist, saying they were our new gods. And when they got tired of holding that fist up, they let the Empire take over. Azura claimed she overthrew the Triumvirate in the name of the old gods, that everything is better now, but she didn't free us. She replaced one set of chains with another." I raised an eyebrow. "So what? The Veiled Council's temples are just for show? I spend every summer at the Forbidden Temple in Valeswood, you know. Trust me, the more our worship is very much alive, just like the ancestors would want." "Sure," she said, her lips curling into a bitter sneer. "They keep their crumbling temples hidden, far from the real world. They worship the Abyssal Ones, pretending to inspire hope and faith in the people, while the rest of us starve under Imperial rule. They've turned faith into a leash, and we're too blind to see it." I leaned back slightly, studying her. I had to admit, this Sayash had fire. Her words echoed thoughts I'd had many a time, thoughts I'd given up on years ago. You talk a good game, I'll give you that, but talk doesn't change anything. The Empire and the Council are all powerful. What chance do you think you have? Her eyes burned brighter, fierce and unyielding. Enough of a chance to fight. Enough to remind our fellow Ash Elves that misery isn't holy, that suffering isn't sacred, and that we don't have to kneel to the Empire or the Veiled Council. I shook my head, chuckling dryly. You're insane. You really think you could pull that off? With what? A handful of rebels? I think, she said, stepping closer still, her voice low but filled with fire, that you're exactly the kind of elf who knows why it's worth trying. You've seen the cracks in their lies. You've felt it. It's true, isn't it? What they say about the torment you underwent after the war. That's why you're a corpse elf. I don't talk about that, I said, my eyes narrowing behind my half-mask. But let's say you're right. Let's say I know that Lok Lalesh is broken, that the Veiled Council is corrupt, and that our religion is used to keep us in check. So what? Knowing and doing are two very different things. That's why I need you, she said, her voice intensifying. You can help me, not just by sparing me, but by using your connections, by getting me into Lord Sylvanhurgel's mansion. Ah, here it comes, I said with a smirk. The pitch. Let me guess. You want me to smuggle your merry band of troublemakers into some imperial nobleman's castle? Not exactly, Glotha replied. Lord Godric Sylvanhurgel, cousin of the imperial governor, has an estate here in Hazareth. Tomorrow night, he's hosting a gala for the rich and connected. Imperial scum, all of them. My people and I can get into the gala pretending to be servants, but we won't have any weapons once we're inside. That's where you come in. Her eyes locked onto mine, unwavering. Your ties to the Veiled Council can get a crate of weapons past security. And then what? I asked, furrowing my brow. You start a massacre? We remind the Empire and every filthy traitor who supports them that we're not slaves, she said. That we won't suffer quietly anymore. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed off the peeling walls. The rotting beams overhead groaned faintly, as if the building itself was protesting her words. And you think killing a few nobles will change anything? It's a start, she said, her knuckles whitening around the hilt of a knife. Besides, it's not about them. It's about us. It's about showing our people, that we don't have to live like this, that we can fight back, even if it costs us everything. The weight of her conviction hung in the room like the lingering ash in the air. I stared at her for a long moment, the silence broken only by the distant creak of a warped floorboard. She was too young to carry this much fire, too young to understand what it felt like when that fire finally burned out. You remind me of someone, I said quietly. Her brow furrowed. Who? Someone I used to know, I said, my voice distant. Someone who thought they could change the world. What happened to them? She asked. They burned. She didn't flinch. Then I'll burn too, if that's what it takes. Her words hit harder than I expected. In a way, talking to Glotha was like standing before the ghost of Najira, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I rubbed the back of my neck, glancing away from her intensity. You're asking me to betray Azura, you know. That's not exactly a decision I make lightly. You're already questioning her, she said, her voice softer now, but no less forceful.
You admitted she's a fraud. You see it. The cracks in the mask. You know I'm right.
I exhaled slowly, the weight of her words pressing down on me. She was right. I couldn't deny that. And yet, I don't deal in hope. Fine, I said. I'll help you. Her eyes widened slightly, but she kept her composure. Really? Only because you remind me of her, I said. Of Najira.
Najira on Grath?
Glotha's voice faltered for the first time. Her expression caught between awe and disbelief.
You knew the instigator.
That's the name Azura gave her, I snarled. After her failed rebellion, Azura made sure to demonize her memory.
That's what I'm telling the people,
Glotha said, her voice filled with quiet triumph.
Thank you, Arisith. Being compared to Orm Angrath is an honor.
It should be, I said. A greater Sayash never graced the surface of the Ashland.
So, you'll help me. But what about the Shura?
Fuck her, I said. You are right. I see that now. Your words, they speak for things I've felt all my life but never been able to articulate. And Najira, she would want me to do this. So I'll do it. For her. Glotha smiled. It was small, faint, and painful to see. That's the problem with the young and hopeful. They're naive. So, how exactly will this job go down? I asked.
We have a crate of weapons,
she said, the sharpness returning to her tone.
Underneath the lid is a false bottom, where we'll stash a layer of coins. Enough to make it look like the entire crate is filled with bribe money, in case the Imperials decide to peek inside. I've been planning this for a while. My problem was finding someone who could believably pass off a bribe to Lord Sylvanhugel. With you on my side, that should go smoothly. As chief assassin to Azura, I assume you carry a writ of passage. I reached into my coat and plucked a folded piece of parchment. I never travel without it. Perfect. Her smile widened. Thank you. Once you do this, I will pardon you for killing Varen, and you will officially have a place in my crew. Should Azura send someone for you, you'll have my protection. And trust me, that's worth a lot, especially in these parts. People like Azura don't send assassins unless you're competent enough to make an impact. You'll be safe under my wing. We'll see about that, I said, sliding the writ of passage back into my coat. As I turned to leave, I glanced back at her, the weight of the box on my back shifting painfully. This will probably end in death, you know. Some things are worth dying for, she said. I didn't reply. I just limped out of the room, her words trailing behind me. I wondered if she might be right.